Have you ever felt that nothing excites you anymore? Not because you're sad, not because you're depressed, but because you feel nothing. The things that once made you happy don't hit the same anymore. The dreams you were excited about feel distant. Even when something good happens, you barely react. And slowly, you start asking yourself a terrifying question. What happened to me? Am I broken? Am I lazy? Or have I simply become emotionally numb? Here's the scary part. Millions of people are experiencing this right now without even realizing it. Because emotional numbness doesn't arrive like a storm. It arrives quietly. One day, you just stop feeling alive. In this video, we'll uncover the hidden psychology behind emotional numbness, why it happens, and most importantly, how to feel alive again. Point 1. Your brain never gets a break. Imagine this. You wake up. Before your feet touch the floor, you check your phone. A few notifications, a few messages, a few reels. Nothing unusual. Then it happens again. At breakfast, on the bus, between classes, during work, before sleep. And slowly, something begins to change. Your brain stops experiencing silence. Every free moment becomes filled with stimulation. A new video, a new post, a new notification, a new distraction. At first, it feels harmless, even enjoyable. But your brain was never designed to receive this much stimulation every single day. Think about it. Hundreds of videos, thousands of images, endless information, all competing for one thing: your attention. And when your brain gets constant stimulation, something strange happens. Normal life starts feeling weaker. A quiet evening feels boring. A simple conversation feels dull. Reading feels difficult. Studying feels painful. Not because these things changed, but because your brain changed. It became used to intensity, used to constant excitement, used to instant rewards. And when that becomes normal, real life starts feeling empty. This is why many people think they've lost their emotions. But often, they haven't lost their emotions at all. They've simply overwhelmed their brain so much that ordinary feelings can no longer be felt clearly. And this is where emotional numbness begins. Not with a traumatic event, not with a breakdown, but with something much quieter. Too much noise for too long. But overstimulation is only part of the story. Because many people reduce distractions and still feel nothing. So what else is happening? Point 2. You stopped feeling your feelings. But here's the thing. Not everyone becomes emotionally numb because of too much stimulation. Some people become numb because they spend years running away from their emotions. Think about the last time you felt stressed. What did you do? Maybe you opened Instagram, maybe YouTube, maybe Netflix. Maybe you started scrolling without even thinking. And for a few minutes, the feeling disappeared. At least it seemed like it did. But emotions don't disappear just because you distract yourself. They wait. they stay in the background. And every time you escape them, they become a little more buried, a little more ignored, a little more disconnected. Now imagine doing that for months, or even years. Every time you're lonely, you distract yourself. Every time you're anxious, you distract yourself. Every time you're hurt, you distract yourself. Eventually, you stop listening to what you're feeling. And when you stop listening long enough, your emotions stop speaking loudly. Not because they're gone, but because you've trained yourself not to hear them. This is why some people say, I don't know what I feel anymore. Not happy, not sad, not excited, not angry, just blank. Like something inside them has gone silent. But emotional numbness is often not the absence of emotion. It's the result of emotional disconnection. Your feelings are still there, buried underneath years of distraction, years of avoidance, years of never slowing down long enough to face what's really happening inside. And the longer this continues, the more disconnected you become from yourself. But here's what makes this even more dangerous. Many people think emotional numbness is caused by what they feel, when sometimes it's caused by what they never allowed themselves to feel. But emotional avoidance is still not the deepest reason, because some people face their emotions and still feel empty. So what is missing? The answer might be something far more important than happiness itself. Point 3. You lost something more important than happiness. Most people think they want happiness, but that's not actually what the human mind is looking for. What it really wants is meaning. Think about it. Have you ever noticed that some of the happiest moments in life weren't actually easy? Working hard for something, learning a new skill, building something from nothing, helping someone you care about. None of these things are effortless, yet somehow they feel deeply satisfying. Why? Because your brain doesn't just need pleasure, it needs purpose. And this is where many people begin to feel emotionally numb. Not because they're suffering, but because they're drifting. Every day starts looking the same. Wake up, check your phone, go through the motions, come home, scroll, sleep, repeat. And after a while, you stop moving towards something meaningful. You start moving only toward comfort. And comfort feels good for a short time. But a life built entirely around comfort creates a strange kind of emptiness. Because deep down, you know you're capable of more. You know there's a part of you that wants to grow, to create, to achieve, to become something. But when that part of you gets ignored long enough, something begins to fade. Not your intelligence, not your ability, your sense of aliveness. This is why someone can spend hours entertained and still feel empty inside. Because entertainment can distract you, but it cannot give you meaning. And without meaning, the mind slowly loses its connection to life. The scary part is, this doesn't happen overnight. It's gradual. So gradual that most people don't notice it. Until one day, they wake up and realize nothing excites them anymore. Not because life has no meaning, but because they've stopped pursuing it. And when you stop moving towards something that matters, emotional numbness starts filling the empty space. But even meaning isn't the full answer, because some people have goals, Some people have dreams, and yet they still feel emotionally numb. So what's happening inside the brain itself? To understand that, we need to look at something called emotional exhaustion. Point 4, your mind is exhausted. There is another reason people become emotionally numb, and it has nothing to do with weakness, nothing to do with laziness, and nothing to do with intelligence. It's called emotional exhaustion. Think about how much your mind deals with every day. Deadlines, expectations, pressure, comparison, uncertainty, the future, the past, the opinions of other people. Even when you're resting, your mind often isn't. It's still thinking, still worrying, still carrying something. And at first, you can handle it. Then a few weeks pass, a few months, maybe a few years, and without realizing it, your brain starts protecting itself. Because the human mind was never built to stay under pressure forever, so it adapts. It begins shutting things down, not completely, just enough to survive. You stop feeling excitement as strongly. You stop feeling joy as deeply. You stop feeling connected to the moment. And slowly, life starts feeling distant, like you're watching it happen instead of living it. Some people describe it as feeling empty. Others describe it as feeling disconnected. And some simply say, I don't feel like myself anymore. The truth is, your emotions haven't disappeared. Your mind is exhausted. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack every single day. At first, you notice the weight. Then eventually, you stop noticing it. Not because it became lighter, but because you've become used to carrying it. Mental pressure works the same way. Many people become so accustomed to stress that they no longer realize how exhausted they really are. And emotional numbness can be one of the signs. A silent signal that your mind has been carrying too much for too long. But if emotional numbness is caused by overstimulation, avoidance, loss of meaning, and emotional exhaustion, then the question becomes, how do you feel alive again? Point 5, how to feel alive again. If you've been feeling emotionally numb, the solution is not to force yourself to be happy. In fact, that often makes things worse. Because emotional numbness is not a happiness problem. It's a disconnection problem. You've become disconnected from yourself, from your emotions, from the present moment. And the way back is not through more stimulation. It's through reconnection. The first step is surprisingly simple. Slow down. Not forever, just enough to hear yourself again. Most people spend every free moment consuming something. Music, videos, podcasts, social media, anything to avoid silence. But healing often begins when the noise finally stops. Because silence reveals what distraction hides. The second step is to start feeling again. Not just positive emotions, all emotions. Sadness, fear, disappointment, loneliness. Most people spend years running from these feelings. But emotions are like messages, and messages don't disappear just because you ignore them. Sometimes, the fastest way out is through. The third step is to rebuild meaning. Not through huge goals, not through changing your entire life overnight. Start small. A book, a skill, a workout, a project, a promise you keep to yourself. Because every meaningful action sends a message to your brain. my life is moving forward. And that feeling is powerful. The fourth step is something many people overlook. Rest. Real rest. Not scrolling, not binge watching, not switching from one screen to another. Actual rest. Because an exhausted mind cannot feel life properly. And finally, be patient. If emotional numbness took months or years to develop, it won't disappear overnight. But that doesn't mean you're stuck. It doesn't mean you're broken. And it definitely doesn't mean you'll feel this way forever. Because the ability to feel is still inside you. It hasn't disappeared. It's just been buried under noise, distraction, pressure, and exhaustion. And little by little, it can return. Maybe you're not emotionless. Maybe you're not lost. Maybe you're not broken. Maybe you've simply spent too long surviving and not enough time living. So here's a question. When was the last time you sat alone, without your phone, without a screen, without a distraction, and simply listened to your own mind? Because maybe the thing you're searching for isn't out there. Maybe it's the part of yourself you haven't heard in a very long time. And if you feel nothing right now, that doesn't mean you'll feel nothing forever. If this video made you stop and think, even for a moment, then it was worth making. And if you know someone who feels emotionally numb, send this video to them.